Good day and welcome to the channel. In this short video, we're going to explore the Samsung Galaxy S25, but not like others have. We're not just going to give you a big list of specs or tell you it's wonderful or it's terrible or whatever else. We're going to go through and we're going to explain some of the key specs, and we're going to explain why you may or may not actually care about this and whether this is actually the right phone for you. This is a 6.2-inch phone, and I've heard people call this a compact phone. Yeah, I don't know what world they're living in, but 6.2 inches is not compact. That being said, it's not giant either. And that gets to a point. This is the S25 Standard Edition. This is not the Plus or the Ultra. And those have larger screens with different specs and prices to match. Now for us, we're upgrading from Samsung S22s to these S25s. And there's good reason for it, but probably not what you think. So let's go over some of the features and explain why this makes sense. So as you can see, it doesn't come with much. You get a phone. Ours came in gray. I don't care what color it is because I'm not silly enough to drive one of these phones without having a case. So I spent a big $4 on a case, a TPU case, thermoplastic if you don't know what TPU means, and that'll keep it safe. I really couldn't care less what the color is, but if you do, you can get transparent cases, but whatever you're doing, please get a case. And what else is in the box is not much. You no longer get a charger, you no longer get earbuds. So what we have in here, charge cable, SIM card remover. Nice, huh? That's it. Now in fairness, that does keep a lot of waste down. People just don't need extra chargers these days. You've got USB ports everywhere. Fire it up. So while this is coming up, let's go over some of the details that you probably care about, or at least you should. The S25 came out in February 2025, and it's got probably the best CPU available today on any Android phone, which is the Snapdragon 8 Elite, which might sound familiar to those of you with the S22 because that isn't a Snapdragon 8, except that is only the Gen 1, not the Elite. The Elite makes this phone incredibly smooth, and it performs almost 40% faster. Its GPU for graphics, graphics processing unit, is about 30% faster. And it also has something called an NPU. That's a neural processing unit. And you think, just another more tech stuff, you know? No, it's simple. It's AI hardware. So it'll let you perform all of the amazing functions that are available on this S25 with great speed. And there's also 50% more RAM on this. And again, more tech crap, right? So what this boils down to is this thing's going to be smooth if you haven't figured it out. If you have an S24, these aren't really big improvements. It's using Gorilla Glass, but sadly, it's not the top of the line Gorilla Glass. So if you're not familiar with Gorilla Glass, that's just the glass screen, and Gorilla Glass is pretty hard to break. But again, if you put it in a thermoplastic unit case, a little rubber case, you almost certainly won't have a problem because you are going to drop this. It's not a question of will you, it's a question of when you will and how frequently you do it. Get a case. Okay, I'll stop harping on that. It weighs about the same as an S22, which weighs about the same as an S24. They're all about 162 grams. What does that mean? It just means it feels solid, but it's not heavy. The screen, it's a big 0.1 inches larger. So this is 6.2, and you can see the bezel on this is incredibly thin. Nice improvement, sure, but I'm not going to pay for it. And that statement gets to something we're going to talk about in a minute. The screen brightness, this is where this thing shines literally. This is 2600 nits. That's a lot of nits. If you don't understand nits, don't worry about it. But the S22, as an example, only has 1300 nits. And there's nothing wrong with the S22 at all. It's a great screen, but this is a lot better. It also features something kind of cool called dynamic refresh rate. So refresh rate is how often that screen updates. So when you're moving things, you want it to be very smooth. So if you're playing a game, this will refresh up to 120 frames a second. The human eye can't even see that. So it's crazy smooth. However, the more times that it has to refresh per second, the more battery it uses. So this is dynamic refresh rate, which will automatically drop it down to as low as 1 hertz, 1 refresh per second. Now, you're never going to see that, but it's just a theoretical possibility. It's going to drop it all the way down, and that'll extend your battery life, which gets to another improvement, but not one you're going to care about. I'm going to mention it because you need to know. This is a 4,000 milliamp battery. The S22 is a 3,700 milliamp battery. Does 3,700 to 4,000 make a difference? No, it doesn't. It's slightly better, obviously, but the big improvement is because the CPU has been enhanced for better power management. The battery life on this will be longer. on the S25 than it is on the S22. However, again, if you have an S24, not that big a deal. And that gets us to charging speeds. Now, this is disappointing because Samsung could have done much better and it wouldn't have cost them anything. So I'm not sure what they were thinking, but they chose to put a relatively slow charging speed built into this. This charges at, when you plug it in, at 25 watts, but the wireless in particular, this is using the UI2 standard, and it will charge at only 15 watts wirelessly. And it could have done so much better than that. You probably put it in your nightstand and charge it all night, or leave it on a wireless charge wherever. It doesn't make that much difference. It's just frustrating to know that they could have done better and chose not to. Now, a standout on this Samsung Galaxy S25 is that it ships with UI7. That's User Interface 7 from Samsung. And that is nice. There's a lot of little features. You can look them up if you care. Or you can just ignore them all and keep using your phone the way you used to, because it's an iterative change. Will those older phones get it? Hard to say. My S22 upgraded to 6.1 a while ago, but I haven't seen 7. And this is running Android 15, which is great. You get all the latest features with this. And latest features when it comes to cell phones means artificial intelligence or AI. It's built into everything. So magic eraser, so you take a picture and you want to take that clown that jumped behind you and photobombed you out, no problem. You circle him, out he goes. And then there's advanced things like in Samsung Notes, you can now put in equations and it will actually solve them for you right in the little notes. It's pretty neat. If you're making a phone call, it can take transcriptions for you live. And Google Gemini is built in. That's Google's artificial intelligent chatbot. And I use Gemini all the time. You'll love it. It's great. It's easy to use. And it doesn't have any nag screens. Now, what about dust resistance and water resistance? That is a big deal for people. You're going to drop this in the toilet. You're going to take it to the beach and get it in the pool. How sturdy is this thing? How much can it stand up to the elements? Same as the S22, same as everything these days. It's IP68. It means you can run this in a pool. I think it's 10 feet down for up to 30 minutes, and that's nice. But it's not an improvement over what you have already if you have an S20 anything. And then there's the big one. The big advantage to getting the S25 is that they're now providing 7 versions of updates. So that means probably 7 years of support. Phones used to provide sort of a longer period, and then somewhere around 2010, they all scaled back to like 3 or 4 years of support. I love my Samsung Galaxy S9, but I had to get rid of it because I do a lot of things with security, and I need my phone to provide reliable 2-factor authentication on a myriad of platforms, and I just couldn't trust that the older phone would go, so I had to change to the S22. Now, the S22 only offers 4 years, so that means this phone's going to last longer. Cameras. Another disappointment. Not that they're not great, it's just they're not improved. There's a 50 megapixel wide, a 12 megapixel ultra wide, and a 10 megapixel telephoto, all of which are great. Now, that telephoto lens has a 3 times optical zoom. If you don't know what that means, I'll explain really quickly. What that means is that the lens actually moves up and down to change the focal length, and that puts you closer or further away. You might think, well, my phone's got a 20 times zoom. No, it has a 20 times digital zoom. And digital zoom is just taking the pixels and making them larger. And when you're talking about cameras that are like 50 megapixel, it's probably fine. But optical zoom's way better. Where are the cameras improved? AI. All the AI stuff that's in here will make this camera produce better results than your old S22, S23. Probably not better than the S24. Not enough anyway to care about. So given all of that, let's get to the point. Is this thing worth upgrading to? No, it is not. What it's worth doing is getting when you need your next phone. If you have an S21 and S22, run it out until it doesn't work for you for whatever reason. If you have an S24, don't bother at all. Now, if you smash your phone, you need a new one, great. It's a great phone. No two ways about it. It's just not worth the upgrade cost. What do we like about the Galaxy S25? I like the size. I don't like the monster phones that I can't fit in my pocket or that I have to worry I'm going to break when I sit on them or whatever. This is just the right size. It's large enough for me to watch a movie on a 10-hour trip and large enough for me to work on. It's crazy fast. It's so smooth. Love all the AI features. So hey, if you found this review useful, please give us the big thumbs up. We'd super appreciate it. If you have any questions or concerns, you can always get a hold of us directly at www.urtech, that's www.urtech.ca. Or you can leave a question or comment below. And if we don't get back to you, somebody else will, because on YouTube, everybody's got an opinion. Thanks and have a great day. Bye-bye.